Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Howard with Team Better Block, powered by WGI. I'm the director of placemaking here, and I work with AARP Livable Communities, working all across the country right now on placemaking initiatives. And yeah, we've had a little bit of change in pace, because of COVID-19, like everybody, working from the house, you know. But there is still some stuff happening in placemaking, and it's definitely an exciting time to think about what you can do in your own city. And so this Facebook Live event today is really to throw some ideas out there of what's been happening around the country. And then in a couple of weeks now, we're going to have even a further dive with some of our folks in the AARP communities around California. So I know a lot of different things are hitting at one time, maybe, and you're as a placemaker are thinking about how does public space fit into kind of the changing dynamics of COVID-19. So I'm going to share a little bit of a presentation with you. We're going to get some Q&A going. I want to hear from y'all out there in California and all across the country about what you've been seeing happen in placemaking. Let's see. Share my screen with you. Hey, there we are. So y'all know me from Team Better Block. We're actually now part of WGI, which is engineering and multi-environmental firm as well. And it just gave me some more resources. And this guy, Andrew Howard, out there painting my own bike lanes, doing my own crosswalks, making places safer and better for everybody to use. And this is usually where we're kind of working in. This is Akron, Ohio, outside of their main part of their downtown, and one of the neighborhoods kind of got taken over by cars and a little bit desolate. We work with the community to come up with a quick build strategy for that area, how to put some life back into it, maybe how to make it a little more safe, and give things to the community to get involved with. We don't stop there. We actually go out and build this stuff together in a short-term period. So all this stuff was built over about a week here in Akron, as you see, and that may be the most amount of finger paint ever put on a street. When's the last time anybody out there in Facebook land used finger paint? When's the last time you had your fingers just all full of paint? That's one of the tools we use. I mean, we want to get stuff out quick so people can react to it and see if it's really meets kind of the desire they think they might have for a place, but it's quickly to wash away, and we can get down to the real strategy of how to make things permanent. So we've been doing these projects all across the country for the last 10 years, working with AARP in towns from as small as Bethel, Vermont, to Birmingham, Alabama, to right here in Dallas. And those tenets of what makes a place successful have been looked at. Now, maybe not as much as the panda environment. I swear we've written more books about the panda environment than we have our own. But there are a few out there. William White's one that looked at urban spaces and said, what makes them tick? What makes one place better than the other? And he did a lot of videoing of how people gathered in New York City in the 70s. And kind of his main conclusion from this is something that's really, pretty simple. What attracts people most, it would appear, is other people. And so, we found out that activating space, putting places for people to sit, things to do, something to drink in a location really created somewhat the human environment and kept people around for a while. And we triangulated those in a relatively small space, comfort, food and drink, things to do, you got place, and you got placemaking when those occurred. And that's where people like to hang out. And we've done these retrofits where we've taken a existing public plaza and added these elements to it and seen them come to life, even in a temporary fashion like this one, or in a longer term fashion like this. And I think we used to use the scale for these was put everything so close together that a mom with a toddler would allow her kid to wander between them. And so really for one of the tenets of placemaking was consolidation and putting things in a really short walking distance between each other. Now, of course, COVID-19 has changed all of that. in the short term for us right now. Is we're being told to space out. Let's give 6 feet to each other. Let's spread out from being inside to outside. And the AARP placemaking toolkit has really come into play for a lot of cities out there right now that are wanting to rapidly expand outdoor dining. And so that combined with slow streets and the business recovery, the CARES Act, we've seen a lot of expansion of outdoor dining. So while placemaking still has its role, our scale has changed a little bit. We've gotten a little bit broader than that toddler scale maybe that we were talking about before. And so, how does 6 feet and wearing face coverings, those kind of things, change placemaking? Well, I had a lot of time to ponder this during the lockdown. This was my lockdown project, building a garden, getting to know my neighbors out there. It actually got ran over, I think, in this picture, and we just rebuilt it back together. And then we got to do some early practice on how placemaking would be in a city, and this was in Norfolk, Virginia. And we started a project there called Open Norfolk, and we looked at how can you use placemaking to support social distancing and wearing masks and being responsible when you're in a public space, and laid out a couple different ways where businesses could expand into the public space or parking lots to make use of those for outdoor dining. And we actually went out and implemented these during the pandemic, and are continuing to do this now for allowing businesses to reopen using what was once parking spaces. About 20,000 square foot of parklets went into Norfolk, Virginia over a few weeks. And some of those have just been really amazing and transformative for the businesses there in a short period of time. Some of them we put up in a couple hours. Some of them took a couple weeks. And then now they've even moved a little bit further into what's outdoor learning and education looking like. So this was at a after school program there where we made an outdoor classroom for them. Again, working with the community, building those places together, building an outdoor classroom that had shade, looking at how they crossed from the school into the outdoor classroom safely. So trimming that roadway down and making sure that it was a pleasant walk to get to it. And all this was done with the Federal CARES Act funding. So this is all funding that came through the Stimulus Act, and it was made for helping communities recover. And so a lot of you communities, y'all may be listening today, have some of this funding already sitting out there, and it's just asking to be used to make sure your city recovers well. And the response has been great in these cities, especially from the property owners and the restaurant owners, saying that they were down to their last few bucks on this, and they'd reached their end and about to throw in the towel. And now to have this has been a great return for them. And I think some of my favorite transformations have been in the strip malls. Just taking a place that's completely inhospitable to people lingering and making it into one that you want to hang out in, even if it's in a parking lot. And so our big philosophy, Team Better Luck, always give it a name, set a date, get out there and make it public and do it. And so I want to hear how maybe some of y'all have worked through some of the struggles in COVID-19 and how you're looking forward to new ideas that you can share with your community. So let's see if we got any questions out there. It's like Jennifer. What are some creative and nice ways to keep people socially distant in outdoor events and settings? Oh, I love that. We were just working on one today. Let me see if I can bring that up. One of the most fun ones I've seen is just these little reminders. They've been drawing circles in locations to show where folks should sit, even in public spaces. So let me share my screen again here. Yeah, so we've been doing some designing for this. These are in Grand Rapids, and you can see we made these circles on this public plaza to remind people to stay. These are actually 10 foot apart with a 10 foot circle around them. And then one thing we've done with setting up a few small markets, we've been doing a little bit of this where we're setting up market spaces. And these little boxes here are market spaces. So instead of having them all lined up together, very tightly, usually these market spaces, 10 by 10 tents would be right next to each other. We've kind of juxtaposed them with 10 feet in between them and given them more space for people to not only look at the goods, but then they can move over and pay for their goods on the side without having to stand in one continuous line. So soon I'll have some pictures of how we've been doing this on special events, but it is kind of, here's another one with we've spaced the tents out a little bit more. It is a challenge right now to be able to still do some placemaking, but spread people out a little bit. So great question. Yeah. What's the best way to transform a public outdoor space in my community? None of this stuff happens without the neighbors coming together and agreeing on pieces of it. Because, you're adding some pretty unique stuff to a neighborhood. You want to make sure that the person right in front of that is on board. So it's not that you have to have everybody in agreement, but make some relationships. Talk to your neighbors. What's missing. How can we make this better? And one of the best places to go to get started on that is the AARP PopUp Placemaking Toolkit. I'm going to bring that up. This guide was started last year, and it was meant to be a quick reference for folks to be able to start in their community these kind of projects with a little bit of money and so you can go to this website here, the AARP Pop-Up Placemaking Toolkit. Just Google that. And you're going to find a whole bunch of resources and actually download this toolkit that we've created with them. And that's going to get you your first step. And I tell you, my first step is always get out there and walk it with your neighbors. Ask them, what's missing here? What can we do better at? And I'd say one of my favorite ones, we did that in North Carolina a couple of years ago, and we had some neighbors that were trying to slow down the street, and so they wanted to give some identity to a place too, and they wanted to do a parklet, but they didn't know what that really meant for their city, and so we ended up doing this. It was a boat that was that acted as a parklet. So you're going to get some creativity when you get out there and talk to your neighbors about what's missing and what can be made better. So yeah, definitely look into those, the toolkit that's out there. Thank you. There's your link right there. That is a great first start for you. And you're going to get a lot of inspiration from what other communities have done with this. All right. Well, we look forward to chatting with you even more next time. Look for some of these kind of projects to come out of and reach out to me again if you've got some questions about what the future of placemaking is and how to do some of this placemaking during a pandemic. All right. Let's see any more questions. So again, I'm Andrew Howard with Team Better Block, and really happy to be working with AARP on their placemaking initiative. One more. Any ideas of how to make space for outdoor games safe? What outdoor games may be safer? Picture a giant foosball field. I don't know what a foosball. I'm thinking maybe foosball. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there are some really great games that are for this. We've been experimenting with a few of them now. We've done the giant chess, of course. Ping pong has been great. What's the other one that we've done? Futsal. We've done futsal in that. So Foosball. Oh, foosball. Oh, wow. Yeah, giant foosball. That is great. I've seen that now with with the where you're almost like in the game playing is exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think the making things big and expanding the scale of things is kind of the way it was going anyway, and now the pandemic has put an accelerator on that to kind of exaggerate the size of all these games and just make it easier for folks to get involved without having to be right in front of each other, within um, uh, a few feet of each other. So um, I have seen folks adapting even basketball to this, to where it's not a one-on-one and courts going back to back. It's more of like creating a wall of baskets, and it's just kind of like shoot 'em up baskets instead of playing against each other. And so, you're gonna have to get real creative with trying to bring people back together, but in a safe way. And so, getting out there and experimenting with some of those different manners of still gathering, but maybe not face to face. All right, Jennifer, awesome question. I often think of placemaking taking place in the central city. Any examples of placemaking efforts in suburban neighborhoods? Oh yeah, and Jennifer does say boozball sounds like fun too, which I agree. You know, beer fixes everything. Yeah, we have been doing some in just sharing one more time. A lot of these took place. So this was in a strip mall where we're adding placemaking. This is a strip mall. Um, and there's been even more also in the I think parks uh, in suburban locations are sometimes the biggest meeting places in the whole city. It's the park and the mall and maybe the post office and the grocery store, that are the largest meeting places. So I think what we're seeing during the pandemic is people are kind of shrinking back into their neighborhoods, and so it's making those neighborhood parks and neighborhood shopping places even more relevant now. And so I've seen a lot of events where they're bringing uh, some of the things that maybe happen downtown or in the big part, they're bringing them out into the neighborhood. So, I've even seen like the symphony is now having small concerts in the neighborhood park instead of playing the big symphony hall right now. And so I think we're going to see that trend even continue in the next couple of years. We're going to have um, the neighborhood scale and the suburban area. It's okay to have something smaller happen in those places, and we don't have to have the big blowout type projects anymore. We can do small scale and be happy with that. Yeah. So let's see what else is happening. Really want to hear if anybody's tried anything right now. I know alfresco dining is not something new in California. Y'all do it all the time, so I'm sure folks are setting up in their own parking lots or expanding their outside their dining outside. What I've been hearing is a lot of the rec centers have closed down right now, so there's been some more outdoor programming of summer camps and recreational camps too right now. So we've seen that happening of like, how do you bring some excitement to those areas? And one of them, I'm going to show you one more project because it's one of my favorites in Columbus, Ohio, with the Age Friendly Network there and AARP Ohio. And let me find that one. Oh, here it is. One of my favorites. This will be my last example, and then you ask about a pop-up pantry. This one actually had that too. So this is in the Blackburn neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio. It was just kind of a outdoor basketball court next to the rec center. and they decided they were going to activate this space, and they were having the food pantry deliver in the parking lot there. And they just kind of put the food out, and people came and grabbed it off of crates that were there. So instead, we kind of moved that to face with this basketball court, adding color, light, identity to that place. Again, here's some of your outdoor. There's your food pantry that's outdoors, your seating, identity piece that goes along with it. And those oversized games, again, getting those outside there. So, mixing those couple things together, I think still works even during the pandemic. And again, the CDC continually tells us to, be outside as much as we can. So bringing some of those activities that, this basketball camp may have been going on inside the rec center, but instead we moved it outside. So, yeah. So lots of great questions. Grace, you've got one. Neighborhood in San Jose, we had an outdoor concert series called Porch Fest, where musicians performed outside in front of people's homes. Oh, I love that. Somerville, Massachusetts did Porch Fest. I think they still do. And I went to that, and that was one of the most amazing events I've ever been to. And I agree with you. I think that is a great thing to do right now during the pandemic, is kind of have a rolling concert series. Like, have folks have acts on their front porch, and then they can walk to those between each other. And it's a great way to it's almost passerby activation of places. So, yeah, everybody look that up. Porch Fest. I'm so glad they're doing it in San Jose, and definitely want to and check out the one they did in Somerville as well. So easy to put together. Put a poster out that's talking about Porch Fest, and get neighbors to set their porch up as a stage. My son's university is using the parking garage for music band rehearsals. Are there other examples of parking garages used in different ways? Oh, I love that. What are we going to do with all those pesky parking garages now? We have so many of them around. And I like the idea of having a band rehearsal in there. That's amazing. We've seen them at a university in, I think it's South Carolina Art and Design, SCAD. They've been using them as student projects to build housing in. Students have actually built their own houses in them. Parking garages can become recreational places. I've seen folks changing them into pickleball courts. If y'all played pickleball is just going crazy, and you need a flat concrete surface to play in with them. We've had a market. Oh, okay. I want to show you one more. We had a market in Haverhill, Massachusetts, turn out of a parking garage, and they've actually taken it over now. Haverhill. This is all on our website here at teambetterblock.com too, if you want to look at it. Everything from suburbia on. So here was Haverhill, Massachusetts. They took a parking garage and made it into a market, and they've actually permanently moved into this location here. So the parking garage does provide for a location that you can adapt. It's those open walls really give you a great opportunity. Mike, you've been doing some outdoor movie nights. I love that. Yeah, if you've got set up for those outdoor movie nights going, that is awesome. And I want to know how you're doing kind of the social distancing there. If you've marked off, circles or areas for people to occupy in there. Definitely keep building on those ideas. And it's like, Grace, you looked up to you got the Porch Fest flyer. Everybody copy Porch Fest. I want to see that everywhere. That's just a great idea. And, along with those Porch Fest, what you could do is have It's a great time to also test maybe some traffic calming on your street. Uh, maybe some new bike lanes you could put with that. Look for ways when you do that kind of activation to also test some changes that could be made permanent in your community. Oh, Julie is getting into a good one. Converting old strip malls or larger retail space for housing. I haven't. I mean, I've conceptualized that. It's kind of difficult to do on a placemaking temporary basis, but I think you're going to see more of that. With the real estate market the way it is right now, we're going to have to get back into kind of reusing buildings for that. So I think you're going on the right chance, or right uh, uh, way for that. And kind of how we've been starting that conversation is just by a strip center. Even though this was an expansion of a restaurant, there's a certain it's almost a mentality that you got to get over with these strip malls. You've got to say that these things can be beautiful. These places deserve place. These places deserve to have, people are going there, so they deserve to have something to smile about, something to be proud of. And so housing is probably that next step there. It's like, let's make that property, let's view it in a way that, hey, we could live here, and then that next step could be converting pieces of it to housing. So, oops, I didn't share, but here's that strip mall. There's a before after on it. So, start with maybe making it a respectable place, making it a place you can fall in love with. And then if you get that far, maybe it becomes housing too in the future. Melissa, we'd love to organize a bike sales swap to address community need for more bikes. Have you seen an example of these and how they work? Um, I have seen those. I mean, we've seen them with youth a lot, and a lot of times we'll do like the youth have to volunteer for a certain amount of time, and then we train them on how to repair a bike, and then they get a bike. There's all sorts of ways to get folks into biking. We did a bike to school event where you just get a little stamp every time you rode your bike to school, and at the end of that, you got a root beer float, and that seemed to work very well. So a lot of times it's not just the access to the bikes, but it's kind of that perception of bicycles, especially in underprivileged communities. A lot of times the bicycle is seen as kind of a lower form of transportation. Like that's what that's what a criminal or a poor person does. And so we've had to go back in and say, no, this is actually like a really good way of getting around. It's recreational, but it's also a valid form of transportation, and just make it kind of cool to bike again. And so a lot of times it can just start out with a bike ride or some sort of event that goes along with that, and then that earning and learning how to not only have a bike but to maintain it is key. So keep going with that, and be okay with a small start to that, Melissa. Be okay with just getting a few kids to ride to school one day on borrowed bikes, and then letting them earn a bicycle long term, and teach them how to repair it a little bit. All right, we've got some great questions back and forth, and getting pretty close to our time. Mike, oh, you're doing a good job. You're going to get bigger, man. I'm telling you, every time you host one of those, it's going to spread more. You're going to be in the park by the time. So, reinforce those ideas now. Bikes and root beer floats. That's all you need. Well, thanks you all for the chat, and we look forward to hearing even more from you this year as California AARP does some placemaking initiatives, and we hear more about what the communities are doing there. So again, I'm Andrew Howard with Team Better Block. check that AARP pop-up placemaking toolkit out, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.